Hi everybody, it's PJ from Wisconsin Air Gunners, and today I've got a great opportunity to bring the Umarex Origin from the box to the bench and show you guys just what it's all about. So let's get right into it. Have a box right here sent to me. This is a gun I purchased from Pyramyd Air. In the box is a hill pump, a hand pump. Now I normally use a compressor, but, and I'll get a little bit more into this in a second, I also usually shoot a little bit of a higher end air gun. But there are times where I get asked, hey, can I borrow something? I've got this problem in my backyard. And I want to be able to help friends out locally. So when that happens, I'm a little hesitant to send over, well, either a complicated or expensive air rifle. And it's nice to have a couple of guns in the stable where you can really, without any worry, send them over to a friend, let them shoot for a couple weeks, and then have them come back when they need air. With the hand pump, these guys can go on a little bit longer of a field trip. So that's why I'm excited to check it out, see how it performs, and see if it's something that I'd be willing to recommend. So let's get this guy out of the box. So we've got a Mark IV pump. That is the older version. The Mark V is the current one. I'll let you guys see this. And there is the Umarex Origin. Get that out of the way. Now, one of the cool things about the way the Origin is designed is, in addition to having air on board, and it's actually got pretty decent fill pressure, 3,600 psi. It's got some sort of spring mechanism in the air tube that actually pushes back on the air and essentially, I'll say, keeps it topped up longer, or at least that's what the claims are. And that's how you're supposed to be able to get more shots out of it. It also claims that you can, because of that system, get a full power shot without too many strokes of the pump. And so what I plan to do is get it set up, air it up, and then once I'm down sort of to the bottom of that shot string, my plan is to connect it to the hand pump, give it 10-15 pumps, and see if I get back into the range where I've got a full power shot. Alright, so there's some of the usual stuff in the box, but the things that I'm going to concern myself with are a pair of 22 caliber magazines. Always nice to get a spare mag. Got those. You've also got the fill probe. And Umarex does something on this that I really like. They machine in the Foster connection right into the probe. So you don't have to, you don't get the threaded one, which, okay, so the threaded one, the reason anybody would ship you one that's threaded is they're sort of assuming this is your only air gun, and you're actually going to thread it into your pump or your fill whip or whatever you've got. Honestly, I think most of us have more than one air gun. And we might start out with intentions of only having one air gun, but let's face it, eventually you're going to have more than one air gun. So this is a nice touch. I like this a lot. And then you've got some spare O-rings, which I'm going to guess maybe are breech O-rings, but we'll see. And you've got a little Allen wrench for some sort of adjustment, but I'm going to set those aside. And then we've got the rifle. The weight's not too bad. You've got that kind of Weaver Picatinny rail on there. Grip is okay. Shoulder's really nice. I like it for a thumb up shooting position. You got side lever, and let's see what she shipped with. There is next to no air in it. Under, I'd say that on this gauge is looking like under 500 psi. Okay, that's no problem. We can fill that up. In fact, we might just assemble that hill, and we might just see what it takes to get over 1,000 psi. We might do that. It's got a label, says don't disassemble it. Looks like you've got some adjustments on the trigger. Trigger feels kind of nice. If I didn't mention it, this one is 22 caliber. Trigger looks pretty nice. Bolt action. I won't say it's stiff, but you do have to pull at it. Reasonably smooth. There's a little bit of, I guess, wiggle or play, but at the price point, that's really pretty good. The air, if I'm not mistaken, oh, didn't mention this, but you got a nice rocker safety, very positive. But the air is going to go in under there. So let's go look at what it takes from the factory to get air in it. Let's do that. Okay, so 30 pumps with that Mark IV hill, 30 pumps, and I'm up to 2,000 bar. That's pretty impressive. And I'm going to stop there because, and that was from 500. I mean, that was basically from empty. It was at about 15 pumps, and I was pretty close to 1,500 bar. So as a hand pumping experience goes, I don't think that would be too terribly awful. But we do need to get scope on here. So I've got a little Bushnell red dot, and I'm hoping that I can get this guy to mount on there and still be able to get a mag in. So I think that's going to be a great setup. Let me get the Allens, put that on there, and then load a magazine. We'll take some shots. Probably help if I tighten that down all the way. There we go. All right. So we'll get over to the bench and let's see what we find out. So the primary reason I'm going to loan this rifle to somebody is because they have a pest problem and I'm trying to help them out with that. So in addition to all the other criteria, a magazine that's relatively simple to load is going to be important. I've had a number of friends call me up and say, hey, I think there's something wrong with the gun, only to find out what happened was they spun the magazine the wrong way on loading. So this one's got a nice and clear arrow, and all you have to do is spin that all the way around to first position, and then drop that pellet in there, and then just keep going. It looks like it's got numbers on there and an indicator, so as you're shooting you can take a glance and see how many pellets you have left. Loading's pretty easy on these, and one of the big upsides of this magazine style is it's used for several different guns, and as a result fairly cheap, and there are some aftermarket options if you don't particularly like the one from Umarex. So now let's see what we get from chronograph results. Well, I've only taken a couple of shots with it. In fact, less than one full magazine. Did get a couple of shots out of that partial fill. I think I took 4 shots with the Hades. Pretty consistent. I'll throw those numbers up here. And then I switched over to the H&N Barracuda 18s. This gun is definitely powerful. And I think you're going to see, if you were to invest in one, I think that you would see that what you'd need to do is go to at least an 18 grain pellet. And I think you could actually shoot something a little bit, I think you could shoot something a little bit heavier than that. I put the 18 grains in, and we were in the high 800s for velocity numbers. I may come back and revisit this with a full-on review, but it's pretty consistent up to the point where it gets below that 100 bar, or 1000 psi rather, and then it drops right off. So you'll want to pump up before you get down to, I would say, 1200, or I think you're going to start seeing some shifts. What I'm going to do right now, I've done a very rough zero on this red dot, and I've got a target out at 30 yards. So I'm going to take a 5-shot group and see what kind of precision we get. Not necessarily accuracy, because I'm not zeroed at 30 yards, but I do kind of want to see where it's hitting and what kind of group it's laying out. The other thing to notice is she's fairly loud. The Donnie FL Avenger extender / adapter works on this rifle, and I think if this is going to stay in the stable, and I think it is, but I think it's going to need a moderator. It's a little bit quieter with the 18 grains versus the 15.89 Hades, but it's still a pretty loud gun. The trigger is predictable. You can feel the take up. It's got a decent break point. It's not mushy at all, which is kind of nice. It's certainly not the lightest trigger in the world, but it gets the job done. Appears I ran out. Let's put 2 more in there, because I kind of lost count on how many I shot. Maybe it was 5, maybe it was 4. Tell you what, let's shoot 1 more. And let's go see what that group looks like. Oh, by the way, I had filled that to 3,500 bar. And I'm sorry, 3,500 PSI. 3,500 bar would be really, really high. 250 bar. And it looks like, if I'm reading it down, I am at about 3,400 PSI. So 3,600 down to 3,400 for, you guys know the number, but about 5 shots. Let's go take a look. So, the usual caveats on a box to bench. It's a brand new gun, right out of the box, just as it's sent to me. This is one I purchased from Pyramyd Air. Always get great service from them and no issues whatsoever in shipping or anything else. The other thing I would say is that I'm shooting a red dot, no magnification, and we're at 30 yards. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots. So I need to do a little more adjustment on the gun, but boy, that's not bad at all. Certainly within minute of squirrel at 30 yards. And for a loaner gun that I'm gonna send off to friends and family for working in their backyard, I don't have a problem with that at all. What we're gonna do now is give you the target view of a 10-shot group. I have adjusted the red dot a little bit. So that's 10. I'm going to check something here. The rifle can be decocked, so that's a plus. But after those 10 shots, I am down at 3,000 psi. Shot count is strong with these 18 grain H&N pellets. It's shooting in the 870, 880 range. All right, so it looks like we have 2 flyers, but otherwise a pretty strong group. I have no complaints about that at all. Definitely minute of squirrel. So what do I think? The Umarex Origin is a really nice rifle. They've hit this one, and maybe at the price point they've hit it out of the park. It's got great ergonomics. I really like how pointable this is. I like where the cocking handle is. I think the safety is in a good spot. My fingers don't perfectly fit in here, but I can make it work. It's a little bit on the loud side. Fortunately, Donnie FL makes an adapter. You can use the one from the Avenger, and I think there's also one that doesn't have the barrel sleeve. You don't need the extension that the Avenger has because the fill probe is under here as opposed to a Foster up here. But it's threaded the same, so you can use that. So you can put a moderator on it, so that should take care of any noise issue. The other thing that is super cool that I haven't taken the time to explore, but will, is back here. There is a little access hole right there. And that is a hammer spring adjuster, which means the 900 and I'll put it up. It was 940, 950, something like that, that I was seeing with the Hades on those first couple of shots. I should be able to dial that down to where those Hades are flying just in the spot they want to be, which is usually between 850 and I get some good stability at like 906, 907. Definitely too hot, but I'll be able to tune that down. The other thing is if you want to shoot different pellets, you've got some adjustment there. So if you want to go a little heavier, I think this is set up probably shoot the JSB redesigns. Very solid power out of this gun. So with that said, while I like the red dot as sort of the close in, simple, turn it on, take the shot, turn it off, that speaks to the possibility that this gun can be accurate at longer ranges. That's beyond the scope of what I'm planning on doing today, but you know, if you can take a 50-yard shot with this gun and it's accurate at that distance, which I think it is. I mean, this is what I'm seeing at 30. You've got on the left, the first couple of shots I took, and then I adjusted the scope a little bit to take another round, and over here, you're actually seeing 10 shots. The main group, 8 of those shots are in 6/10 of an inch. And then these other 2 kind of drop down. With this guy in there, it's still a 1-inch group. This guy takes it out to about 1.25 inches, maybe a little less than that. But still really good accuracy for a rifle that's only had, well, really 2 magazines through it. So I'm pretty impressed right out of the box with it. And I think if I had a little magnification going my way, it's entirely possible that that group would be tighter than it is. So I'll have to make a decision on that if it's going to stay around. Something in a low power, you know, maybe like a 4 power even, would really would bring things into tighter focus and really complement this gun very well. I think the key is to keep it light. So I'm going to try probably a Tanto or a Tatsu moderator on it. And then if I can get my hands on maybe something in the 1 to 4 power range up here, it'll be interesting to see how much more accuracy I can wring out of it, especially being able to adjust that hammer spring. Final thoughts. Okay, so you've spent about as much time with it as I have. Literally just shot 2 magazines through it, and that's the point of these box to bench videos, is to show you what you can expect right off the bat. I think it's a good option for a lot of people. I think it would appeal to someone new to PCP air guns. You can buy it from Pyramyd Air with a pump package. I've seen claims that say like you can pump it 13 times and get a shot. I did that. It actually worked. I was using the Hill Mark IV pump. It was at like less than 500 PSI. I pumped it with 13 pumps. I put it up to 1500 PSI, and when I was looking at it over the chrono, that's high enough to give you a full power shot with an 18 grain pellet. I put 30 pumps in it, and it was over, I think it went to 2500 PSI, and I was able to get a full magazine out of that. So in just a couple of minutes, you've got a full magazine worth of air in it. I didn't hand pump it up any higher than that. I'm sure I will down the road, but I've got a compressor, so I'm not gonna work myself on that one too much. I would say if you were on the fence on this, jump right over. This is a very solid feeling air gun. Really nice ergonomics, decent accuracy, and pretty hand pump friendly. However, they're doing this system in here where it counterbalances the air chamber. It actually works. I will say that when it goes to the basement of air, it drops pretty fast. So you don't want to push that down below 1000 PSI probably. I think that's what the gauge kind of suggests. I got a little over, well, about a magazine and a half from the top of 3600 PSI to 3000 PSI, which suggests to me that there's probably at least a solid 3 magazines in each full, which is perfect for plinking or actually taking it out to do a little hunting with it. So I hope everybody's enjoyed the video. Hope you've stuck around with me to this point. If there's any questions you have about it, I will hopefully be able to answer them as I learn more about the gun, but please put them in the comments or shoot me a message over on Instagram at PJ_Clark. And until the next video, everybody, shoot safe, shoot straight. We'll see you around. Hey, before I let you go, you might have noticed this sweet Christmas sweatshirt that I got. This is from my buddy over at the Dollar Sportsman. He and his wife dreamed up a little bit of air gunner Christmas cheer and sent one over to me, and I can't help but say thank you, Noor, and to anybody else who wants to hook up one of these, go over to the Dollar Sportsman's website, and he's got a link so that you can order them. He's got sweatshirts and t-shirts. A lot of fun, and hope everybody is ready to celebrate a happy holiday season. Thank you.